I was once celebrated as the sword sex peerless genius, a talent seen only once in a century. Now, even a stray dog would turn its head away in pity at the sight of me. This change occurred because a disciple of our sect is only considered a true sword cultivator after they have selected an appropriate lifebound blade. Despite being a sword immortal in my previous existence, I have now stubbornly chosen a rusted iron sword. My reasoning is simple. In my former life, my lifebound weapon Guji betrayed me. To save my junior brother from demon kidnappers, it turned its spiritual energy against me, causing grave injuries and allowing the demons to slaughter my entire sect. Having been reborn into this second life, I refused to have anything to do with that treacherous blade. Realizing he couldn't change my mind, my master uttered a final remark before walking off. I hope every demon you encounter dies of tetanus. Langa Pavilion stands as a premier sect within the cultivation world, offering resources that are the envy of every practitioner. Upon achieving foundation establishment, every disciple earns the right to pick their own lifebound sword. Afterward, they are required to leave the mountain to gain experience in the mortal world. This journey serves to stabilize their cultivation and allows them to witness the realities of the mortal realm, helping them understand exactly what they are sworn to protect. I am the foremost figure among the current generation of Langa Pavilion disciples. Master often remarked that there hadn't been a sword cultivator with my level of talent in decades, perhaps even centuries. From my youth, the elders claimed I was destined for the Guji sword. Shortly after I reached foundation establishment, my master quickly made arrangements for me to claim my lifebound weapon. Everyone viewed Guji as my fated blade. Surprisingly, upon hearing the news, our youngest junior brother threw a fit, demanding to come along. Since his parents were Langa Pavilion elders who perished while fighting demons, the elders allowed him to become Master's disciple, despite his lack of natural aptitude. Within the sword armory, junior brother trailed cautiously behind me, nervously scanning the area. "Senior brother, it's so dark and gloomy in here," he whispered. I didn't bother responding to him. He hadn't even reached foundation establishment yet. His presence in the armory was only permitted because he had begged for a special favor from the elders. Once a person claims a lifebound sword, they are forbidden from entering the armory again. Consequently, Master and the others could only watch our progress through a spirit mirror. "Don't be scared, junior brother. Your senior brother will keep you safe," the eldest senior sister's voice echoed through the spirit mirror. I frowned. "Stay close to me and don't waste time," I told him. "Hey! How can you talk to him like that?" she snapped. "You know very well that every sword in this armory has tasted blood." Master immediately scolded her in anger. "Quiet. If you interrupt your junior brother one more time, you can leave." Eldest senior sister finally fell silent, leaving us undisturbed. Eventually, we arrived at the heart of the armory, where Guji rested. Audible gasps of amazement could be heard from those watching through the spirit mirror. Everyone was captivated by Guji's presence. I stared intently at the blade that had caused my death in my previous life. Suddenly, a hand reached past me and took hold of the sword box. "Senior brother, this sword is beautiful. It is so full of spirit. Lin Zinan, what do you think you are doing? Drop that sword this instant. That blade belongs to your senior brother." The master's enraged voice echoed from beyond the mirror. A look of uncertainty crossed Lin Zinan's face. "But master," he stammered, "I feel a powerful connection to this blade. Put it back." With trembling hands, he lowered the weapon. However, Guji had already stirred its consciousness. It ascended into the air, spiraling around Lin Zinan as though it had accepted him as its master. "Master, since my junior brother feels this way," eldest senior sister attempted to intervene and reason with him, but she was cut off. "Your junior brother is acting foolishly, and now you're encouraging this absurdity. Is that a weapon he is even capable of handling?" "Master, since Guji has made its choice, I'll just select a different sword." "Wait, please don't do anything reckless out of spite," an elder shouted, rushing toward us. In their view, only the current top genius of the sword path was deserving of such a weapon. They believed that only with me holding it would we stand even a slight chance in the looming immortal demon war. "But master," I asked, "why must the sword be made for me? Why can't I be the one who defines the sword? As cultivators, we shouldn't simply resign ourselves to destiny." "Master, a true cultivator prevails through their own power, not through their equipment. Even if I held a piece of junk, I would remain the pinnacle of the sword path." Just as I finished speaking, a weapon flew into my palm. It lacked a sheath, and its surface was marred by patches of rust. It was clear the blade hadn't been touched for centuries, maybe even millennia. This was the very life-bound sword my junior brother owned in my past life. Back then, after I claimed Guji, he had chosen this one out of frustration. Every other sword spirit had been intimidated by Guji's presence. Only this one had dared to approach him. Master stared at the object in my hand, his face turning white with alarm. Don't let your temper guide you. If Guji is unavailable, just choose another. Do not settle for a piece of trash just to get back at us. Seeing that I had yielded, my junior brother joyfully embraced Guji. From this moment on, I am your master, he whispered. Thank you, senior brother, for giving up something you cherish. I didn't intend to take it, but I felt an immediate connection the moment I laid eyes on Guji. You understand that fate and affinity are paramount, right? Oh, I understood. I understood far too well. In my previous existence, I followed the advice of my master and the elders, insisting the Guji sword. I had no idea that the sword spirit had already developed an attachment to my junior brother. Even after it became my life-bound weapon, it carried a deep-seated grudge. When the demon horde struck, they used Lin Zinan's life as leverage to force the sword into sabotaging my meridians. It didn't hesitate for a second. At the height of the battle, it endured a backlash just to turn its spiritual energy against me, leading to my death at the hands of the enemy. A bystander burst into laughter, assuming I had lost my mind out of rage. While the elders viewed me as the ideal golden disciple, the standard against which everyone else was measured, I was also the object of resentment for many of my peers. Master was likely reeling with worry. Any object capable of withstanding Guji's pressure couldn't be ordinary, regardless of its battered exterior. Since I'm stepping aside, just let him have it. Don't make things difficult for Zinan, the spirit of the Guji sword manifested, glaring at me with a cold, murderous intent. He was well aware that every other blade shrank away from his overwhelming presence. And he took great pride in that fact. A look of delight swept over junior brother's features. I never anticipated the Guji sword spirit would be this nimble. You are truly kind to me. The surrounding disciples let out a collective gasp. Even though they were aware of Guji's ferocity, the sword spirit's ability to manifest prior to a soul-binding contract was a testament to its overwhelming strength. Their personal sword spirits were only capable of showing their true forms after a contract was finalized and following extensive cultivation to bolster their energy. The jealousy in their gaze was impossible to hide. Had I known, I would have ventured deeper into the sword armory back then. Observing the looks on everyone's faces, Lin San's smile grew even more conceited. Since the matter is decided, let us proceed with the contract. Witnessing my unwavering resolve, Master let out a sigh and instructed us both in the soul-binding technique. Even though I was already familiar with the process from my previous life, I acted as if I were learning it for the first time. In the meantime, the Guji sword spirit had already assisted Lin Xan through half of the ritual. He gazed at him with deep affection. Lin Xan lowered his head in a bashful manner, which only made the Guji sword spirit find him more charming. Being the most renowned fierce sword in existence, he was indifferent to the opinions of Langya Pavilion. The statements he had made earlier were solely intended to safeguard Lin Zangnan. From the instant he first saw the youth, he believed he had found his fated master. Finally, the contract was established. The blade in my grip erupted with countless beams of radiant light, though it was merely a fleeting moment. It soon returned to its worn-out state. Master's face remained unreadable. I blinked, wondering if my eyes had deceived me. Good. Guji, what is the matter? A sudden cry erupted from beside me. The spirit of Guji had vanished without warning, and the blade itself had lost much of its luster. Master, what has happened to my sword? Lin Zan inquired with concern. One of the disciples burst into laughter. It is obviously because your cultivation level is too meager. He is unable to manifest. A sword spirit's condition is intimately linked to the master's power. To think you are an elder's personal disciple, and yet you are ignorant of that, someone muttered. Yet the hall was so silent that the whisper echoed clearly. It struck Lin Zan's ears. His complexion turned a deep crimson, and in a fit of rage, he struck the spirit mirror, cutting the link to the main hall and bringing the spectacle to a close. Following this was the journey down the mountain for worldly trials. Because Guji's strength had provided him a boost, junior brother also attained the foundation establishment stage and joined the group of disciples heading into the mortal realm. As I was picking my jade identification token at the law enforcement hall, I crossed paths with Lin Zangnan and several other disciples preparing for their departure. They were sharing a laugh until they noticed me and went silent. Lin Zan approached and remarked, "Senior brother Yan, we should journey together this time so we can support one another." Another student added, "Indeed, junior brother now possesses Guji, which is legendary for its power." Keeping us safe will be a simple task for him. A hint of contempt and pride flickered across junior brother's face. It is certainly more than sufficient, though whether I choose to protect you is another matter entirely. I turned down their invitation politely. Traveling down the mountain for experience is intended to forge the individual. Grouping up for everything has its limits. The intent of these jade tokens is merely to gather everyone to resolve a crisis if a desperate situation arises. However, we cannot depend on others for every matter. Unexpectedly, Lin Zhen's eyes grew red as if he were on the verge of tears. Senior brother, do you still harbor a grudge against me for taking Guji? But no contract had been formed between you two. It was only you choosing Guji unilaterally. Guji did not choose you. Did I do something wrong? I felt a headache starting to form. Although my death in my previous life was linked to him, it wasn't a conscious choice on his part. Thus, I held no prejudice against it. It was simply that in this life, I wanted to remain far away from troublesome matters. Furthermore, the sight of Guji made me feel slightly nauseous. That's right, senior brother Yan. I didn't expect you to be such a petty individual. Junior brother, you did nothing wrong. Don't cry. It is senior brother Yan who is being unreasonable. The surrounding disciples quickly moved to comfort him. A mocking glint filled Lin Zhangnan's eyes as he laughed internally at Yan's ignorance for daring to compete with him for a sword he desired. I said my goodbyes to Master and traveled toward the south. Along the way, I struck down various demons and monsters and also assisted some mortals. Seeing them work with diligence, rising with the sun and resting at sunset while carrying the heavy burdens of life, caused a surge of spirit in my heart to solidify further. Tempering one's heart within the mortal world is the primary step toward achieving the great Tao. Although I occasionally found myself in life-threatening situations and nearly perished, I survived through my own efforts. With every obstacle I overcame, I gained fresh insights. Most importantly, the sword in my hand aligned with my heart's intent. Every time I struck, I was able to maximize the power of my sword techniques. In my past life, there was a rift between Guji and me, and it frequently ignored my commands. Consequently, dangerous situations were even more lethal. I used to reassure myself that it was because my strength was lacking and that it was a trial set for me by Guji. After years of building experience and facing countless perils, I had found a point of balance with Guji and naively believed I had tamed it. Little did I know, it was merely that the sword hadn't seen Lin Zhangnan in too long and wanted me to finish my travels early to return to the sect. As I was cleaning the blood from my blade, my communication jade token began to glow. I picked it up to check. It was junior brother. From Lin Zhen's token, the scream of another disciple rang out. Lin Zhangnan, are you trying to get us killed? They had been ambushed by demons in Twilight City, and the disciples traveling with him were badly hurt. He originally hadn't wanted to call for everyone, feeling he could resolve the matter himself since he possessed Guji after all. With traces of demonic energy leaking from a wound on his waist, the others were unhappy with his actions. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. During the argument, the jade token was accidentally triggered, and everyone heard their predicament. Junior brother, do not panic. We are coming immediately. The direct senior sister of the injured disciples recognized his voice. Lin Xian's face looked incredibly grim. Once they arrived, it would confirm the fact that he lacked sufficient strength, yet the demons here were indeed quite troublesome. In my past life, Guji and I navigated through a multitude of perils before finally conquering them. Nevertheless, the majority of those struggles arose from a lack of harmony with my life-bound blade. Due to its fickle nature, I came close to losing my life. This was unexpected. Despite the mental bond between Guji and my junior brother, they still found themselves in a hopeless state. Being only a few cities away from Twilight City, I knew I would arrive shortly. I spoke up to announce my location. The voices of other disciples, sobbing with relief, emanated from the jade token. Thank the heavens it is senior brother Yan. He will surely be our savior. Lin Zhen's expression grew dark. Nobody has perished yet. Why are you making such a scene? Is a death required for you to view this as a crisis? Junior brother Lin, I never imagined you were this sort of individual. As soon as those words were uttered, the wounded disciple was pushed violently, slamming into a table. A fellow disciple rushed to help him to his feet. What do you think you're doing? All the senior brothers and sisters are listening. The disciple's voice shook, his terror plain to hear. I am merely suggesting that we shouldn't depend so heavily on external assistance for every matter. Otherwise, how can we hope to improve? Realizing that his standing within the sect would be destroyed if he didn't fix this, he quickly fabricated an excuse. The wounded disciple gave a cynical laugh. Lin Zhangnan, you aren't the one bleeding. You aren't the one facing death. Is easy for you to deliver such grand speeches. Demons had pinned Lin Zhangnan and the others against the city walls. Every house in the vicinity had its doors bolted shut. The rest of the disciples had already collapsed, leaving only Lin Zhangnan standing with his sword in hand. He had been hiding in the rear this entire time, but now there was no one left to act as his shield. He held his blade horizontally, trying to parry the demonic onslaught. The demon who appeared to be the leader chuckled wickedly. So, this is the new master of Guji. He lifted his hand and a surge of demonic energy swept forward. Guji absorbed the majority of the impact, yet Lin Zin was still driven into a corner, spitting out crimson blood. The demon watched with an expression of amusement, as if enjoying a performance. How pathetic. The cultivation world truly deteriorates with every passing generation. And this is meant to be the most formidable sword in existence. You are forbidden from insulting Guji. Perhaps moved by the sight of Lin Zhang still trying to protect him despite his miserable condition, the Guji sword spirit desperately gathered his spiritual energy to strike the lead demon. Upon manifesting, the spirit stumbled back a few steps. Lin X and quickly moved to support him. I knew you would protect me. The lead demon wiped a trace of blood from his lip. That was somewhat intriguing, but still far too feeble. Guji was incensed. Having been famous as the world's top fierce sword for so long, he had never endured such mockery. He immediately prepared to gather his spiritual power for another strike. A flash of intense pain crossed Lin Zin's face. His meridians felt as though they were boiling. His grip on the Guji sword spirit's hand tightened further. It hurts. His cultivation level was too low to withstand Guji's spiritual energy. Zhangji cried out in alarm, halting his movements. Lin Zainan's pained expression made him fear acting too hastily. Is that all? Then it is my turn, the demon laughed maliciously. Lifting his hand, he yanked a disciple from Langa Pavilion into his hold. Why don't we play a game? Let's see what Guji's master decides. Will you let your fellow sect member perish, or will it be this mortal? From behind him, the demons shoved a mortal forward, someone they had seized at an uncertain time. Naturally, you could attempt to slay me with a single blow. But let's find out if Guji truly wants to watch this fragile girl endure such pain, he sneered with wild derision. Guji protected the figure in his embrace, casting a freezing stare at his enemies. Lin San's weeping was relentless. Though the junior sister gasped for air while being strangled, both men seemed unmoved. She felt certain that her end had finally come. Suddenly, a flash of sword chi struck the demon's hand. Hissing in agony, he released his grip. Senior brother Hayu, you've arrived. I seized both the junior sister and the helpless mortal, moving them to safety behind the lines. Yanhu of Langa Pavilion, your reputation precedes you. You appear far more dangerous than Guji's master. I unsheathed my blade. Enough talk. A deadly strike erupted, cutting through the air toward the demon. He lifted his arm, releasing waves of dark energy to cancel out my technique. I didn't give him a moment to recover, launching a series of rapid attacks. Even though this was the same foe from before, my experiences in this lifetime had changed me, and my power was significantly higher. Lingai, get them to safety. Lingai shook off his shock and hurried to lead the survivors down the city wall. They are fleeing. The demons in the rear attempted to give chase. I am your only opponent, I said, a slight smile touching my lips as my sword glowed brightly in agreement. Once the demons in Twilight City were suppressed, my junior brother returned to the sect ahead of schedule due to his injuries, cutting his journey short. When the day of our departure arrived, a crowd of commoners gathered to bid us farewell. Lin Znan watched the people admiring me with a look of pure resentment. I spent a few more days wandering the mortal lands. Realizing the Immortal Sect Symposium was drawing near, I began my journey home. As I went to visit my master, numerous disciples offered their greetings. My junior brother approached with a grin and gave me a hug. Senior brother, you've returned? He glanced around me curiously. But where is your sword spirit? That's right, why isn't the sword spirit with you? Shouldn't you be presenting yourself to master alongside your spirit to demonstrate what you've achieved during your travels? Lin Znan gasped, covering his mouth in mock surprise. Senior brother, is it possible you still haven't manifested a sword spirit? But senior brother Hugh crushed the demons even without one, someone countered. He spent years in the mortal realm and built quite a reputation. It's incredible, murmurs of praise filled the air. The disciples who had returned from Twilight City had already recounted the events there many times over. Previously, my strength was just a distant fact to them, but now that I had saved their comrades, they felt a personal bond. Noticing that no one agreed with him, Lin Znan stomped his foot in frustration. What was wrong with everyone? Yenhu's failure to produce a sword spirit ought to be a disgrace. Why were they honoring him? To him, the power of these ants was nothing more than... The spirit of the Guji sword manifested with a sneer. Watching the spirit defend him, Lin Xin felt a sense of warmth in his heart. Even though he was a formidable blade, Guji's current form remained somewhat unstable. He hadn't tasted blood since his recent awakening, and given his master's low cultivation level, his usual arrogance had diminished significantly. If you're truly so powerful, why did the demons in Twilight City thrash you so badly that senior brother Hiyu had to step in and fix your mess? The disciples who had been injured earlier pushed their way through the crowd. What was that? The sword spirit's eyes blazed with rage, refusing to let anyone undermine his authority. A sudden burst of sword light erupted, flying directly toward the outspoken disciple. However, a ray of pure white sword light intercepted the strike, neutralizing both the attack and the pressure. Picking on a junior disciple, how utterly disgraceful, a playful female voice echoed. Without me noticing, a woman had materialized at my side. She possessed a graceful, captivating figure and emitted a spiritual aura as pure as snow. Good heavens, senior brother Hughes' sword spirit has manifested, and she's a total beauty. The disciples of the sect were left speechless. Nearby, Lin Zhang and Guji stood frozen in utter disbelief. It was only at that moment that I realized I actually possessed a sword spirit of my own. Throughout my years wandering the mortal world, she had never once shown herself. Despite my constant cultivation and attempts to call her forth, she remained hidden. I had assumed something was wrong and planned to seek my master's advice once I returned to the sect. Whether or not a sword spirit has been formed is a simple matter, yet you've turned it into a conflict. I simply had no interest in dealing with people who were causing a scene over trivialities. However, I didn't think you would actually strike an innocent person just because you were provoked. Typical of a savage blade, you truly have no sense of elegance. A resounding slap echoed, and a red mark appeared on the Guji spirit's cheek. Not a single person saw how the blow was delivered. You enjoy spreading rumors and intimidating those weaker than you. This slap serves as a reprimand in place of your master. Since he hasn't taught you the rules, I will. The tone of my sword spirit remained soft, as though she were whispering gentle endearments. Upon hearing the master he guarded being scolded, Guji's temper flared and he moved to defend him. Standing before the main hall, I finally intervened. What is all this shouting? Where is your sense of decorum? I called out, putting an end to the ridiculous display. The moment we stepped back into my quarters, the spirit vanished once more. She refused to manifest, regardless of how many times I tried to summon her. My frustration grew. I couldn't understand why she was being so difficult. Fine, if you're going to be like this, we should just sever our contract. I have no use for a sword that won't obey. Instantly, a small child appeared in the center of the room. Please don't be angry. Look, I've come out now, haven't I? The girl chirped quickly, trying her best to maintain a mature look on her tiny face. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. It was difficult to link this small child to the alluring and graceful woman I had seen earlier. I just knew you'd react like this, she huffed, turning away in a huff. No, I wasn't trying to insult you, I replied, trying to sound sincere. But tell me, why do you keep changing from an adult to a child? The sword spirit climbed onto a seat and poured herself some tea. As she sat on the wooden stool, her legs were too short to reach the floor and swung back and forth. Despite this, she wore an expression of grave maturity that I found deeply amusing in private. She had sustained severe damage in the past and had only managed to heal enough to. She remained trapped in the form of a child. Overcome by embarrassment, she had never shown her face, making a silent vow to wait until she possessed an adult body before revealing herself. She hadn't anticipated being pushed so relentlessly by Lin Zhang at the Grand Hall, which left her with no choice but to manifest. Had she stayed a moment longer, she might have reverted to her juvenile state in front of the entire assembly. Fortunately, I managed to lead her away just in time. I patted her on the shoulder, struggling to suppress the nagging thought that utilizing child labor was a violation of immortal regulations. I promised myself to cultivate diligently to help her grow. The Immortal Sex Symposium was a rotating event hosted by different groups. This year, it was the beast-taming sect's turn to organize it. As we disembarked from our cloud skiff, the eldest senior sister of the beast-taming sect arrived to greet us. The junior brother at my side appeared thrilled. However, the eldest senior sister walked straight past him and halted next to me, her expression radiant with a smile. You must be senior brother Yan. I have heard of your reputation for a long time and am finally honored to meet you face to face. The elders from Langya Pavilion have already gathered in the main hall. Allow me to escort you there, senior brother. I gave a nod, thanking senior sister Tang for her assistance. She waved her hands dismissively, insisting it was no trouble whatsoever. Meanwhile, the neglected junior brother stood there with clenched fists, staring vacantly as we walked away. Why are you just standing there? At your age, do you still need a guide to keep up with your own group? Another disciple from the beast-taming sect asked with a frown. Move along and follow senior sister Tang. If you wander off, we'll be forced to escort you individually. We are quite busy with many other sects arriving. A second disciple chimed in with a scolding tone. Heaven knew they had been working to the point of exhaustion for days. After all, the cultivation world consisted of hundreds of sects of varying sizes. I am the wielder of the Guji sword. Is this the level of hospitality you show your guests? Lin Xnan demanded sharply. The beast-taming disciple waved him off indifferently. Who cares about your sword or your title? If you belong to Langya Pavilion, then follow your group. I've never even heard of that sword. The only person I know from your pavilion is the famous Yan Hu. Exactly. I believe senior brother Yan might be the most prominent figure in the entire cultivation world, beyond just his skill with a blade, another added. I agree. He is certain to take the top spot in this year's symposium. The disciples continued their conversation as if no one else was present. Noticing the man still standing frozen, they asked, "Are you still here?" "I will make you regret this," the junior brother hissed, gritting his teeth as he flicked his sleeves and stormed away. One of the disciples scratched his head, puzzled. Regret what? Although it was titled an Immortal Sect Symposium, the event was essentially a massive assembly where various sects engaged in sparring matches and shared insights on cultivation techniques. Because the laws of the cultivation world were so rigid regarding unprovoked attacks on others, few people had a clear understanding of anyone else's actual capabilities. This gathering facilitated the flow of information. Without it, rumors of someone's power would persist without any concrete proof of their specific skills. Initially, Lin Xnan was only scheduled to take part in the academic debates. However, by pleading with the elders and invoking the memory of his late parents, he eventually secured a spot in the martial arts tournament. He had drawn a talisman cultivator as his adversary. A surge of hidden delight filled his chest. It felt as though the heavens themselves were favoring him. Those who relied on talismans were constantly at a disadvantage. Once the paper charms in their hands were exhausted, they became little more than lambs led to the slaughter. He felt certain he could wear this opponent down or perhaps even secure a swift victory. I observed the talisman cultivator as he glanced at the sword, his face remaining completely devoid of emotion. Deep down, I already suspected that my junior brother was about to falter. Because he looked down on his foe, he held back his true strength from the start, believing he could simply toy with the talisman user. Beside me, an elder stroked his beard with a look of growing disappointment. Senior brother Lin and his wife were such sensible, down-to-earth people, I hadn't anticipated that the child they raised would turn out so reckless. If it was obvious even to me that junior brother was the one being toyed with, the elders surely noticed it as well. By the moment he understood he was losing his footing, the situation was beyond repair. He failed to draw out Guji's genuine power. Within his grasp, the blade was barely more effective than a simple wooden sword. His sword techniques were feeble, and the chance of a reversal was far too slim. Impossible. How could I possibly lose? Junior brother's shocked exclamation followed the referee's final decision. He collapsed to the side, his mind still reeling from the blow. Staring at the talisman cultivator's unchanging, stoic face, a wave of bitterness surged through his heart. By what right? How could a mere rogue cultivator without any sect or backing overcome him? How could he dare? That blank expression surely hid a cruel, internal mockery. Guji was stirred by this explosion of malice, desiring to slay anyone who caused Lin Zhen grief. Luckily, the talisman cultivator responded quickly, tossing out a protective charm to dampen the impact of the sword ki. Even so, he was still hurled into the spectators, spitting out blood upon impact. This disciple from Langya Pavilion is such a sore loser. Attempting to kill someone merely over a defeat? How frightening. The elder prepared to rise, but I held him back. If an elder stepped in, the matter would spiral into a conflict between sects. Instead, I descended into the arena, resting my life-bound sword against Guji's throat. Apologized to him. On what basis? Senior brother, why are you siding with a stranger? Lin Xin shrieked hoarsely. He felt that those around him ought to be shielding him and defending his honor. Do you think you can intimidate me? Guji was enraged. When you commit a wrong, you must accept the repercussions. I simply do not wish for my junior brother to stray onto a dark path. How does that constitute a threat? Lin Zhangnan appeared truly bewildered. Guji was only acting for my benefit. How is that the wrong path? Senior brother, you are clearly still envious of me. I knit my brows, unwilling to let the other sex keep witnessing this farce. Lin Xin's expression brightened with joy, assuming I had been moved by his words. In the following instant, I slammed my scabbard into the back of the Guji sword spirit's knees. Overpowered by the strike, he dropped to the ground. The impact was so violent that his knees carved 2 deep craters into the earth. I roughly shoved his head down to kowtow toward the talisman cultivator. How irritating, you simply had to force me to use physical measures. I performed another hand seal, causing Lin Zhangnan to drop to his knees involuntarily. It is due to my own failure in guiding my junior brother that subjected this fellow Dawes to an injustice. I offer my apologies on his behalf first. Later, I will send a disciple to provide Jade Dew pills and Supreme Yang pills to assist in restoring your cultivation. If any issues arise, you may find me at Langya Pavilion at any time. The nearby Langya Pavilion disciples, following my orders, had already gathered around the talisman cultivator to administer several 5-flower powders. He was already largely recovered. The remaining items I promised were merely for compensation. Jade Dew pills are so difficult to obtain, yet he gave them away so freely. That is truly generous, as expected of a Langya Pavilion disciple. Some even joked, begging this junior brother to stab them a few times as well. After all, Jade Dew pills were incredibly valuable, and Supreme Yang pills were no ordinary treasures either. Most importantly, there was the promise from the chief disciple of Langya Pavilion. Everyone could see how highly regarded Yanhui was. Even the unruly Guji sword was unable to withstand him. Some who had to discipline their own troublesome junior martial brother's side. This Langya Pavilion junior brother is far too ignorant. I have always disliked these brats who leave messes behind. How old was he? At an age where he should have a family and career in the mortal world, he had achieved nothing in the cultivation realm. Yet he still incited trouble and brought shame to the sect. Amidst the whispers of the crowd, Lin Chan's face grew increasingly red. He screamed aloud, "What do you know? I am Guji's master." "I am the most powerful one," he roared hysterically. The crowd below shook their heads. Since when is a person's worth judged by external tools? We support senior brother Hui because of his exceptional abilities. Even without wielding your so-called #1 fierce sword, he remains the paramount figure of the immortal Tao. I formed a hand seal and silenced Lin Jan's mouth. It was a brief miscalculation. I had only restrained his body but left him able to speak. I should have known he wouldn't say anything sensible. Seeing his master's aggrieved state, Guji tried to stand and protect him. I stepped on his kneeling heels. Do not add to the chaos here. His eyes were bloodshot and veins throbbed on his forehead as he attempted to break free to comfort Lin Jan. But every effort to stand up failed. Had this been right after the contract was formed, I truly might not have been able to handle him. However, after my cultivation in the mortal realm, my level had vastly improved. The elders praising me as a once-in-a-century genius was not empty talk. In contrast, forming a contract with junior brother not only failed to help him improve, but because of junior brother's poor aptitude and low cultivation, his power was dragged down significantly. Furthermore, ending their worldly experience early meant they had made no progress. The symposium concluded smoothly, and I was the well-deserved #1. The elders of the various sects had all departed early to handle their affairs, leaving the remaining disciples to continue their studies and return gradually. However, the demons took advantage of this vulnerability. They infiltrated the city closest to the beast-taming sect, aiming to capture all the remaining disciples in one fell swoop. By the time the news reached us, the assault on the sect had already begun. In the absence of the core elders, the disciples were consumed by panic. I was quite surprised when the news reached me. In this lifetime, the demonic forces had arrived ahead of schedule. In my previous life, this event clearly took place during the subsequent symposium, which was why I had felt comfortable letting the elders depart first. However, there was no time to linger on these thoughts. I rounded up the remaining disciples, dispatched a messenger to the elders of the beast-taming sect, and commanded that the sect's defensive array be activated immediately. What should we do, senior brother Yanhui? There are so many demons outside. Is this where we die? I maintained a steady gaze on the frantic crowd before me, waiting until their overlapping voices subsided before I finally spoke. Every sect requires the trial of descending into the mortal realm. Have you all forgotten the true purpose of cultivation? If you, who possess cultivation bases, are in such a state of terror, what hope is there for the commoners at the foot of the mountain? Our sects were established to safeguard the people, yet now they are suffering on our account. Do not let yourselves fall into chaos when facing a formidable enemy. I believe you are all just momentarily overwhelmed by anxiety. You simply need to regain your composure. Lin Zhen spoke up, his voice dripping with spite. You make it sound so noble. But what does the fate of those ants matter to me? Other disciples who felt the same way twitched their lips, but lacked the courage to voice their thoughts. I cast a glance in their direction. The elders of the beast-taming sect have already engaged the defensive array. For the moment, we are safe within these walls. Waves of relief and cheers immediately erupted throughout the hall. However, the common folk below have no such protection. If you still hold the teachings of your sect dear, follow me down the mountain. We will rescue as many as possible. As for those who fear death, I will not compel you to come, I stated coldly. The very first act of any disciple entering a sect is to swear an oath to shield the common people. After reaching Foundation establishment, the primary lesson is to traverse the mortal realm, tempering the spirit in the mundane world to foster a heart of compassion. Years pass quickly in cultivation, and being removed from the mortal realm for too long makes it easy to lose sight of one's original purpose, to forget the very people one initially vowed to defend. Yan Hu, you have my genuine admiration. I will accompany you, the talisman cultivator spoke with deep respect, despite his stoic expression. Senior brother, count me in as well. It is the duty of Langa Pavilion disciples to protect the commoners. I never imagined I would have the privilege of fighting by Senior Brother Hu's side today. I have grown much stronger since our time in Twilight City. More disciples began to respond, not just from Langa Pavilion but from various other sects as well. I looked toward the few who kept their heads lowered. Everyone harbors selfish desires, and one cannot truly blame them for a lack of courage. Thankfully, there are always those who are willing to be brave. Then those who remain will wait for the commoners to arrive and ensure they are settled safely. Hearing this, several disciples looked up. We will, someone replied, shedding tears of remorse. We must hurry down the mountain. There is no more time to waste, I urged. Wait, you cannot go, Yan Hu. The Guji sword spirit suddenly materialized, blocking my path. I furrowed my brow. We cannot afford any delay. I let the other disciples head down the mountain first. Why am I forbidden from going? He asked, his voice sounding hoarse. Without my help, you are destined to lose. You and I share the highest compatibility. That is the bond of synchronization we develop through life and death. I couldn't comprehend why he was losing his mind at such a pivotal time. Then a sudden realization hit me. The Guji sword spirit had also regained the memories of his former life. I responded with a cold tone. Synchronization simply means you turning your edge against me. This supposed bond forged through life and death was nothing more than you constantly leading me to my demise. His expression shifted to one of pain and confusion, unable to grasp why I, who had shown him such kindness for so long in our previous existence, had suddenly altered my attitude. In this current life, those events had not yet occurred. Suddenly, as if hit by a bolt of lightning, it dawned on him that I had also been reincarnated. However, I had no interest in a weapon that had turned on its owner in a past life. Devastated by my words, he lost his balance and collapsed to the side. Lin sensed that something was amiss after listening to our exchange. He scrambled toward the Guji sword spirit, clutching him while weeping. What are you saying? I don't get it. I'm terrified. Guji, stay right here and keep me safe. You are my sword after all. Why are you focused on Senior Brother? He sobbed and lamented. Guji's features were twisted in misery. Suddenly, my own sword spirit emerged, grabbing my hand to lead me away. She spoke sharply. Stop wasting your time speaking to sword spirits with hidden agendas. As expected, the city had already suffered partial destruction at the hands of the demons. Fortunately, the sect's disciples had reached the scene in time, ensuring no one was injured. The heavens above were ink black as leaking demonic essence tainted the atmosphere. The demon leader remarked, I was told the current master of the Guji sword is pathetic. I didn't think he would be too cowardly to even show his face today. A nearby demon offered flattery. The world of cultivation is merely a disorganized rabble. From this moment on, the world belongs to the demon race. Before his death, the demon from Twilight City had sent word back regarding the Guji sword's new master. Upon discovering that this individual was not a threat and that Guji's power was dormant in his grasp, they had grown arrogant. Only a more absolute ferocity and darkness can truly suppress the evil of the demons. The civilians had been entirely moved to safety. The demon leader grew furious. How are you managing this? Where did they go? Suddenly, the voice of a young girl echoed from below. She had been pinned beneath the rubble. Demon reached out to seize her. Moving with rapid speed, I saved the child and severed the demon's reaching hand. I checked her over and confirmed she was unhurt, spotting her mother among the crowd in the rear. I moved her to the safety of the protected zone. Before she departed, the little girl unexpectedly embraced me. Thank you, big brother. You are a real immortal. I gave her head a gentle pat, rose to my feet, and prepared to face the foe. Luckily, because they believed the swordmaster was incompetent, the demons were arrogant and had not brought many elite warriors. Only the leader presented a minor challenge. I concentrated my efforts on taking him down. Additionally, when my sword spirit had appeared earlier, she informed me that she had regained the majority of her power and urged me not to fret. Having a sword spirit with whom I shared such a profound mental link increased my fighting spirit significantly. Following a violent struggle, the demons were eventually eradicated. The disciples were more or less. Though injured, everyone exchanged glances and grinned. So this was the sensation of uniting to safeguard the ordinary folk. You possess some power, but what of it? Would you truly dare to slay your own sect brother? The primary demon had been thrashed so severely that he could no longer hold his shape. A solitary remnant of dark energy was all that remained, boring into the body of Junior Brother, who had surfaced unexpectedly. Junior Brother's eyes snapped open, completely crimson. Yan Hei, you've turned me into the world's biggest laughingstock. That sliver of corruption had ignited Lin Zhang's internal demons. Looking monstrous, he brandished his blade and charged at me. You cannot defeat me now. I will slaughter you to release the malice in my soul. His laughter was manic, wreathed in coils of dark mist. It was a clear indication of demonic deviation. Guji, unable to bear seeing his master turn into a demon, continued to writhe in pain. In truth, I never grasped why Elder Lin's son possessed such a foul nature or why Guji would ever select such a master. I swung my blade. Each of his techniques was perfectly visible to me. Even if he truly succumbed to the dark path, he was no match for me. Right as I intended to strike him into unconsciousness, the demon burst forth from within him. A hand tore through his chest, clutching a heart that continued to throb in the demon's palm. Useless trash. Even with half of my power, you were forced into a constant retreat. Pathetic. You squandered the future your parents built for you. With a heart this dark, you are actually a perfect fit for a demonic cultivator, he spat contemptuously. While possessing Lin Zhen, he had sifted through all the memories in his mind space. When his parents had gone to the sword armory years ago, they had already targeted Guji. They had spent rare treasures to forge an artifact, imbuing Guji with a consciousness that favored their lineage. They eventually shared this secret with their son. Thus, the reason he followed Yanhu back then was merely the terror that he might actually claim the sword first. Junior Brother perished instantly, his blood pooling across the earth. The demon consumed Lin Zhang's essence and attempted to escape. With nothing in my way, and ignoring the agony in my meridians, I delivered a killing blow, piercing the vital weakness I had identified. With a wretched scream, he dissolved into mist and disappeared, though he did not disperse back in the human world. The feeling of the power backlash slowly faded. I stared at the weapon in my grip, my brow tightening. That was a powerful demon. A common blade could never wound its spirit. Furthermore, my life-bound sword, having claimed to have regained most of her power, had transformed entirely in appearance. The elders, alerted by the news, finally arrived on the scene. Catching sight of my sword, they rubbed their eyes in disbelief. This old man hasn't lost his sight, has he? I think I'm hallucinating as well. This is a legend only found in ancient scrolls. I was a bit baffled by the elders' remarks. This blade is remarkable, my sword spirit said as she manifested with a grin. It turned out the sword was called Xinhan, a divine weapon of old. However, as the era of cultivation waned, no one remained who was compatible with it, leaving it imprisoned within the armory. In my past life, The moment I entered the sword armory, she sensed my presence. Consequently, she rushed out, hoping to depart by my side. She never anticipated that I would demand Guji instead. Because of that choice, she remained behind only to be claimed by Junior Brother. The world's greatest fierce sword. It is nothing more than garbage your grandfather toyed with and then threw away. Observing the vibrant and lively beauty standing before me, I couldn't help but think she was more adorable when she was younger. Her face shifted instantly. You should erase that memory this second. Is this the manner in which you address a sword master? Guji's faint voice drifted toward us. My way of speaking is none of your concern. Go calm down elsewhere. Your master has passed away. Return to the sword armory and remain there. She began hopping about, entirely abandoning the elegant lady act she had been maintaining moments ago. He appeared stunned and humiliated. Hey, you. You what? I what? Just whose life-bound sword do you think you are, babbling like this? A slight smile touched my lips. My affairs are no concern of yours. I made a mistake. I'll strive to compensate for it. Not every action can be redeemed. I gazed at him with compassion. I truly hope you learn the meaning of loyalty and serve your future master better. Whether anyone would ever pick this blade again after the spectacle involving Lin Zangan is something I cannot say. The Senhun sword spirit tugged at me, forcing me to look elsewhere. I warned you not to converse with suspicious sword spirits from the outside. I brushed her hand aside. Exactly what sort of strange vocabulary did you pick up while in the sword armory? Why is it strange? That is what everyone says, she replied with an air of self-righteousness. Never mind. From this point forward, I will educate you correctly. Fine. Her voice sounded resentful.